Good morning. I call this meeting of Lake Mary Toastmasters Club 6440 to order. Before we proceed with the meeting, please silence your cell phones. Thank you. I would like to ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. With that said, please help me welcome our Toastmaster, Stephen Morgan.
Thank you, Alexandra. As our club mission indicates to you, it gives you an idea of why we're here and what we intend to get out of this, and the reasons we keep coming back week after week, at least in certain people's ideas. That mission is actually slightly different. It changed from a couple years ago, although the essence of it was the same. The wording changed. Whether or not the actual meaning changed, probably not a whole lot. I didn't detect a particular one there. This particular meeting, I put the theme down as Toastmasters philosophies, which is getting into the why are we doing the thing we're doing and in the particular way we're doing them. What are our motivations that drive us to do the things in the way that we do them? We also have a few changes to deal with on the agenda, apparently, since our odd counter and our grammarian have not shown up yet.
You do the whole thing.
That's to make up for your absences. James actually sent a text. He's in traffic, running late. I'm not sure of Julia's part. Let's see what we got here. Since Gus hasn't got a role yet, do you have wish to volunteer for that?
Come on. Let's move over to the account.
And Gene, would you like to add some more points to your ambassador form by taking on the role? Go ahead, please take on odd counter for us.
Over here.
You can either move or have him take the sheet over there. And I'll give Gus a chance to think of a word.
What?
I have one.
You have one?
Yes, what's that?
Wait, I think I even have it printed right here.
Oh, look at that.
Come on.
First come, first serve. We have spare.
Brownie points for Carrie.
Cackle.
Oh, God.
I'm gonna use that today. That's already in my speech.
Oh, you have it? Okay.
Cackle.
Which one you got?
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, take
It is about to be cackle.
That's right. Hey, I was around Halloween when I had brought an extra word because I didn't get to.
What was the idea?
So, you know.
Help pays for the repairs.
Thank you. Cackle's like a laugh? Yeah, it's cackle.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that's a cackle.
You should volunteer for the museum. They have a ghost walk on Halloween.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So in the spot on the agenda, you can write that in, and I'm sure the agenda, the definition will be forthcoming if you can't read it.
Oh, yes, sorry.
I'll begin first by introducing the technical table, beginning with our timer, so the others have time to get ready. Jorge, will you please explain your duties this morning?
Master Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, an honored guest. My role today as the timer is to make sure that I keep everyone with a speaking role on time and report those times at the end of the meeting. So for today's speakers will get the green card when there are 2 minutes remaining, yellow card when there is 1 minute remaining, and the red card when the time is up. For table topics, you'll get it at 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and a minute. And then for the general evaluators, you'll get it at 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and when your 3 minutes are up. And I will give my report at the end of the meeting. Hopefully, I don't have to cackle at anybody. Cackle at people with a red card. Master Toastmaster.
As odd counter filling in, our guest Eugene Kowalski, will you please explain what you'll be doing?
Yes, I'll be happy to, Mr. Toastmaster of the day. I will be counting the crutch words, the ahs, the ums, the likes, so-ons, and so forth, and redundant words that you may not necessarily need in your speech. And at the end of the meeting, I will give you an accounting of those words that you have used inappropriately.
And our grammarian stepping in, Gus, this morning.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. The role of the grammarian and the function is to help members build vocabularies. Each member, when called upon to speak, is encouraged to use the word of the day. And the word of the day is cackle. And to utter a shrill, broken sound, or cry as a hen. Secondly, to laugh, Stephany, in a shrill, broken manner. Chatter noisily, the which crackle as she rode have grown. So that's the word of the day. It's right there. It's also on the side. Please make sure you use the word of the day. I will also be listening for exceptional use of the English language, and I will be also noting colorful phrases or thoughts members might use. And if you don't use the word of the day, there will be a fine of
25 cents.
25 cents. And I'll do my report.
Now, depending on your place in Toastmasters and what your goals are yourself, the philosophy you bring forward when you come into here will vary from many of the others. For probably most of the Toastmasters that you will ever meet, you'll discover that their philosophy pretty much ends at the door to the moon. And all that they care about is what's happening within this particular room. Whether they're getting their speeches in, their feedback that they desire, what they want to grow or take out of Toastmasters. Many of them may never even finish their manual. They'll do a few things, give what they think they needed out of it, and they'll be leaving for other waters, perhaps because time constraints, or in some cases, they've moved or other life changes have caused them to have to change their schedules. Because after all, Toastmasters is not the top priority, at least within their philosophies. That may happen to change when you actually get up here to speak, because once you get up here, it seems like the only thing that matters. But when you're under pressure, things do seem to change. Which is not to give our speakers this morning any reason to worry, because we know they've both gotten up here and done a great job of speaking before, and we're here to listen to a little bit more. Beginning with our first speaker. We are all immersed in the making and remembrance of memories, whether we are the makers, the receivers, or simply the audience. Our next guest holds the memories of a granddaughter, a daughter, a sister, a mother, and of course a friend. But which memories do we choose to actually remember when we are all together? Please welcome Toastmaster Diane Manikowski, who will give us a fresh perspective on which memories are truly our most memorable. Diane.
Good morning, Master Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and hopefully future Toastmasters. We all want to give our loved ones wonderful memories of love and special, comfortable times that we spend together. The ethereal moments of special smiles, pride, loyalty, and love. And these are essential to our character and to being able to adjust to the disharmony of debacles and mishaps. But when we get together, do we really start discussing you're getting your A's on your report card, the poem you got published in the yearbook, the day you got your first job, the hugs you gave your grandparents, the pleasure of your baby taking her first bites of food? Heck no. You remember the frustrating and simultaneously endearing moments of when your daughter dumped the spaghetti all over her head and cackled, that sly little cackle, when she kept throwing pieces of food, carrots, and splats of applesauce and her sippy cup on the floor over and over again so she could hear the thump and the whack and the splat on the floor. And when you were frustrated because you had to clean up the mess all the time. You remember when your son came running to you to say, "Mommy, I just did pee-pee." And you went running to see that the little Cheerio floating in the middle of the toilet was unscathed, but that the walls and the floor and the toilet and all the cracks in between were covered in a putrid yellow shade that redecorated your bathroom. I think that's possibly why decorators give you advice on how to decorate your bathroom in the color yellow. You remember the panic on your parents' face when they're trying to retrieve your valuables when you have a flood in the basement. And of course, you guys are all playing in the water and having a great time. Those are the memories that we remember. Why? Well, just like an interesting book with a lot of drama that leads up to a climax and then a resolution, we all like things that are interesting, that have some type of suspense, that have some type of effort and panic and all kinds of emotions that are associated with it. Yes, we want to remember all the loving times that we have with our loved ones. We want to remember when they held us, but those things, those ethereal parts of our being are ingrained in us. They're just soldered into our mind and our heart and our soul. And those things are solid, so we don't have to remember them because they're just always with us. But when we get together, we remember the messy times, the messy memories when things didn't go so well. These are our learning moments when we learn to navigate the world and people. Recently, my brother came to visit. And when we were talking about how he used to call me sis and how we used to hug and kiss and all the things we used to do. We started remembering our family. We started remembering my grandmother. We called her Gran. And not how loving and wonderful she was, not how when she made popcorn balls for us or she rubbed our backs endlessly so that we could fall asleep. No, no, no. We remembered when she would run around the house after my brother holding that spatula and couldn't wait to whack him, screaming at him because he didn't do what he was supposed to do or because he was disrespectful to her. When we talked about my mother, we remembered the bazooka gum caper. I don't know if any of you remember bazooka bubble gum, but a long time ago it used to be really, really hard stuff, okay? And you had to open it up with the comics in it and everything. My mother had bought a humongous box like they have the milk duds in of like 250 pieces of bubble gum. And she warned my brother and I, don't you dare open that or touch that bubble gum. I have it for the party. Well, my brother and I, of course my brother, it was always his idea. I just sort of went along with it. We got together and we planned how we were going to open up the bubble gum. And she would never count 250 pieces. We were going to open it up and we were going to glue it back together with Elmer's glue. Well, we got out our couple of pieces of bubble gum and we chewed them, and my mother came into the house and everything was sealed up really nicely, but she smelled the smell of bazooka bubble gum in the house, and she went and looked and brought us out. And she was so angry, of course we denied everything, but she made us sit there and chew every piece of bubble gum that was in that box. And we sat there for the rest of the day until our jaws ached. That's the memory that we remembered about my mom. We remembered about my father, about how Billy used to pass the flames under the corner of the tablecloth to see if it was really flame retardant. Of course, it was in the middle of office hours. My father was a vet. He had office hours downstairs. And so I had to go running down the stairs and grab him to come and rip the tablecloth with all the dishes that we were supposed to clear off the table, along with the curtains that also were not flame retardant, and they were all on fire, and he was stomping it out on the ground. And why do we remember that? Well, we remember that because those are the times when he's so angry and we're in lots of trouble. Those are the things you want to talk about and you laugh about. But the funniest of all was the day that my father and my brother and my sister and I all went in a plane. He used to be a pilot in World War II, and he liked to fly. So he took us flying, and we'd go out to breakfast in Teterboro or somewhere like that. Well, we went out just for a flight, just for something to do, and he took me, and he knew I always threw up in the plane. I always got sick. So we always had sick bags in the back pockets of the seats. Well, that day, unfortunately, there were no sick bags. So my father put me in the front seats thinking that everything was going to be great. We were going to be fine because I was going to be flying the plane and with him and everything's fine. So for about a half an hour, I'm sick as a dog. Sick. And I'm like, Daddy, I'm so sick. I'm going to throw up. No. It's okay. We're almost there. Just give it a couple more minutes. 5 minutes go by. Oh, Daddy, I'm so sick. Finally, we are 50 feet off the ground. My father has his hand on the throttle. We're coming in for a landing, and my father says, we're almost there, honey. We'll be there in a second. And I turned to my father, and I said, Daddy, I can't. And do you remember The Exorcist? Well, spew all over my father. The Franco-American spaghetti and meatballs, dripping from his head, the tomato juice with bile, dripping from his nose, the spaghetti hanging off his arms as he's trying to land. And my brother and sister are cracking up. Of course, my father had a few expletives. Oh, cackling. Well, they were cackling also. My father had a lot of expletives, which I can't go into here because it's not appropriate. But that was the funniest part, if I could tell you that. We weren't looking at the billowing clouds that were like cotton balls in the sun. We were only talking about the funny way my father landed that plane, how he screeched on the brakes, and everybody thought we were in danger, and everybody came running out of the airport because he was so pissed off. We remember all of that. We remember my sister crashing through the sliding glass door. Well, the good thing about all of these memories is that we have them to remember, but also there is generational payback. So when your parents tell you, I hope you have kids just like yours, you better hope you are, because that's what makes the memories. When your kids are discovering the world and delving into it with gusto. I remember my twins when I was pregnant with Alex, and my twins were 2.5. My obstetrician put them in his office to wait because he didn't want them to see all the gory stuff, while I was in with Alex. So he came running in despair. Christopher, who liked to take things apart and put things together, took apart his 50-gallon fish tank, and the valuable, rare fish had to be rescued. The 50 gallons of water was all over the floor. Dr. Esposito walked in right as they were trying to put it back together again so that nobody would know. And then said, they are never allowed here again when you come. So I remember that. I remember when they gave the doll a bath. And do you remember that pink Baby Magic baby lotion and the yellow Baby Magic baby bath and the humongous economy sizes of all of them, especially the white Johnson & Johnson baby powder, the day that they decided that they were going to give the doll a bath. And it started in their bedroom, went down the hallway, all the way into the bathroom, and by the time they were finished, the nice clean carpet was, well, think pink. And there were suds and bubbles and powder all across all of the walls. Of course, I wanted to pull my hair out. However, now I think that is such a funny story because that's what I remember about them. I remember when Alex, my littlest one, decided to redecorate the floor, the rug, in our 15 by 20 foot loft area. And it was a light colored carpet again. And he got a hold of some permanent markers and decided to draw some trees and flowers and cars and highways and all kinds of things all over the carpet. Well, let's just say that after that, the carpet, when it was replaced, was dark green and undrawable. So I remember all of these messes. You remember all the messes in your life where your pets were pulling the toilet paper from the roll all over the house, or the yarn, or the dog is digging into the trash, and all the frustration and everything that you had to go through. That's the fun times. We remember the laughter, the surprise, and the delight that we all survived this madness. So remember, it's the miraculous, marvelous, messy memories that rock our world. They're not just generational payback. They are the gifts of love, laughter, and life. Thank you, Master Toastmaster.
Thank you, Diane. Our timer will give us 1 more minute. Fill out the informal evaluation forms there to provide your feedback to Diane on her speech.
That's the line.
You want this coming down some?
Yeah, please, sorry, that's Sergeant at Arms job. It says enter at your own game. But it's-
Ain't that cute?
I love it. I don't think I will get spaghetti.
Yeah, no more spaghetti.
Crackers only, that was forever a rule. Crackers.
Time.
Thank you. For those who have experienced Toastmasters beyond the club, and particularly Stephany and Eugene here, both having been division governors, are well aware there's a very different mindset that comes into play when you're looking at a bigger organization. It's more of an administrative view, or in some cases a corporate style view, as you've seen, trying to keep track of so many different things and coordinating so many different people, because more than what the club does, at the other levels, particularly the district level, they're also coordinating conferences and organizing contests along the paths leading upwards. Keeping track and also being held accountable to what the various clubs are doing when you have no influence whatsoever over what they do makes for a very different kind of mindset. The philosophy that may come into play for some of them may start to change. For either of you, did you notice a change in perspective when you ended up at that level?
Be nice, play nice.
Didn't say what the change was, just asked if you noticed the change.
I saw his expression.
It was an enlightening change with a lot of crackle. Crackle, crackle.
We shall move along then to our second speaker. Alexandra recognized the difficulty others had understanding her English. Toastmasters was suggested to her on numerous occasions, however, her all or nothing thinking was getting in her way of trying public speaking for fear of failure. After a couple of years considering if she should join or not, she finally made the most important decision of her life. She started on the rewarding journey of becoming a Toastmaster and delivered her first speech, The Icebreaker, in October 2013. 10 months later, she is completing the last speech of the Competent Communication Manual. Alexandra feels it's like a dream, the fact that she is completing the last speech of this manual, because she was actually about to quit after the second speech. She said that looking back, she was trapped inside her own cage, the cage of perfection. Please welcome Alexandra Balda, delivering project number 10, Inspire Your Audience with the Competent Communication Manual, the Cage of Perfection.
Thank you. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I grew up in a home where my parents always told me that whatever I wanted to be in life, I have to be the best at it. I remember that as a young girl, I was so driven by perfection that I spent so many hours each night during a school day ironing my uniform. It had to be perfect. I also remember being so mortified if I couldn't wake up every morning early enough to do my bed. It had to be perfect as well, no wrinkles. My parents never found out how many fully cooked eggs ended in the trash because I was trying to do the sunny side up eggs, and you know the golden yolk has to be circle and perfect. Well, when I cracked the egg, the golden yolk was like everywhere, so trash, until I got it perfect. Throughout the years, looking to improve and trying to reach for perfection, I limited the joy of trying new things. Among those new things is public speaking. Well, I know what you're saying, but wait, it's not public speaking, it's public speaking in English. I recognize the difficulty others had understanding my English, and I see sometimes the cackle. I have so many stories to say, even my own family, they have hard time understanding my English. I remember we moved to Central Florida 2 years ago. Obviously, when you move into a new house, so many things that you need to do and fix. And we didn't know nobody around, just brand new move from South Florida. So one day I came back to home, very excited. I told my husband, finally, I found a handicap that is going to help us fix things in the house. My husband gave me that look, a handicap is going to help us fix stuff around the house? Alex, you mean a handyman? Oh, well, handyman and handicap is the same thing. You know what I'm saying. Even my daughter, they having such a hard time to understanding when I speak to them. I came from work one day with my jacket, and my jacket lost a button, and I called my daughter, Miranda, bring me hilo y aguja so I can sew my jacket. Mommy, you can sew your jacket? You need an attorney? Where are you going to sew your jacket? Oh, well, sewing. You know what I'm saying. It's the same thing. It's terrible. It's really hard. And the harder thing in English are the slangs. Oh my God, how many times I look so stupid in front of people when I took literally when they saying stuff, slangs. It's like, what are you saying? And for me, trying to be cool at work, I came to one of my coworkers. I said, hey, John, let's meet. I want to pick up your brain. My brain is not on the floor. Why are you going to pick up my brain? You mean pick? Thank you. I'm still learning with this land. So as you can say, and as you can see, I recognize that others had difficult time understanding my English. Toastmaster was suggested to me by a colleague many years ago. I want to say probably, well, when I came here 2 years ago. However, my all or nothing thinking was getting on my way of trying public speaking in English, because I had this fear of failure. I became my own cage. I was trapped inside my own cage, the cage of perfection. After a couple of years of considering, should I join Toastmaster, I shouldn't, I was debating, what am I, it's going to be a complete failure, my English. Well, I finally made the decision of my life. And I Googled and I found this amazing group, which is 5 minutes from home. And you guys have been all amazing. I'm very grateful to this group. And I started the rewarding journey of becoming a Toastmaster. I remember I delivered my first speech October last year, the icebreaker, and I remember it like yesterday. And 10 months later, today, I'm completing the last speech of the Competent Communication Manual. I'm pinching myself like, really, I cannot believe it. It's like a dream. It feels like a dream. The fact I'm completing this last speech today, I said, is like a dream. Because, like Steven said before, I was about to quit on the second project. I feel today like a champion. And I said, I'm a champion looking at myself 10 months ago. I overcame the fear of not looking perfect in front of people. It was a brutal journey, and if you ask me, a painful one. I want to share with you all during this journey what I learned. And I learned that it is not about being perfect. And I always thank you, Stephen, when you said this is the place where you make mistakes. And I love that because that also drove me to continue. It's about falling and making mistakes. And I want to tell you always about trying new things. I want to tell you, get out of your cage. Any cage that you may be trapped, get out. Try something new. Fall, make mistakes. But at the end of the day, I want for you to smile, 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 and have fun. Master Toastmaster.
Our timer will give us another minute. Please provide your written feedback on the informal evaluation forms for Alexandra.
Time.
Thank you. A philosophy that I have seen growing in the past decade within Toastmasters has been the idea that we are a professional organization. And in fact, many clubs are formed specifically for the idea of helping professionals, especially the corporate clubs, which are actually formed and supported by the companies, the people that are members of the club there. As a result, what I've seen in the past 10 years because of the introduction of the Competent Leader Manual has been many changes that have been happening from the international level, specifically to address issues related to people who are in corporate situations. Amongst those many things would be the rebranding, the change of the logo from the old one to the new one, certainly shows an idea of a corporate mindset from my point of view. The change of the motto for Toastmasters to where leaders are made. These are all recent changes, which from my point of view indicate a change in philosophy that had occurred up at the higher level. For those that are in the many different clubs, especially the clubs that are not professionally oriented, it seems a bit awkward for many. And in fact, as I've seen after 10 years, many clubs still can't figure out the Competent Leader Manual, much as we try to get people using it. Perhaps it's a mentality or a different philosophy that's coming into play, or just trying to understand how other people are thinking. It always helps to get an idea of what they're thinking in order to know what it is they're doing. Which leads us right now to table topics. Exactly what is our table topics master thinking, and what's he going to ask of you? Here is Ernst to provide us those questions.
Toastmaster, fellow members, and our guests. I'm veering away from the table topic for about 2 seconds. Several speeches ago, I was talking to you about the impact of World Cup soccer. The last thing I'd ever and many of you cackled. Many of you cackled when I said the impact this would have in the United States. Last weekend, FC Barcelona played Manchester United in Michigan, and I don't think there's too many South Americans living in Michigan. There are 109,000 people watching. So please continue to cackle. Anyways, the theme of today's Toastmasters, the Toastmaster philosophies. We know what philosophy means. It is the rational investigation of the truth and principles of being, knowledge, or conduct. Erika, you're smiling. Share with us an experience where you found a person to be the opposite of philosophical, which means irrational, narrow-minded, thoughtless, and unreasonable.
Do you want me to share a story describing a person who's the opposite of irrational?
Opposite of philosophical, which is irrational, narrow-minded, thoughtless, and unreasonable.
Well, I would say that would be myself. Because they say opposites attract each other, and I tend to be very relaxed and laid back and don't push things to happen. So do I have the right description? Can you correct can you repeat the opposite of what you want me to describe?
The opposite of philosophical is irrational, narrow-minded, and thoughtless and unreasonable. Share with us a story of a person who was unreasonable, thoughtless, and narrow-minded.
Okay, I'll share a story. Imagine a family of 6 on Markham Woods Road riding a bike on the trail. Imagine a person who decides to look on the MapQuest to figure out where the closest restaurant is. I decided that I would encourage my entire family to ride the 5-mile bike ride to Kobe's restaurant and eat. And my husband thought it was very irrational, last minute, unplanned, it was never going to work. After eating, we noticed the sun was setting, so I had a tow truck on standby in case we didn't make it home. And as we ran through Markham Woods Trail, we saw a snake, a deer cross our path, and I never thought about the littlest one who had a 1-speed bicycle, so he could never stop pedaling. We barely made it home, so I would say that was very last minute, unplanned. That's a great story.
I don't know how many topics I can bring, but Carrie, what is the best way to deal with an adult person who is irrational or narrow-minded?
On some occasions, that would be my boss. And one in particular was on Friday, and he was out of town in California. So it was slightly easy at that time because we just didn't really answer him on email and text until he started actually swearing at us in our text and email. But we eventually figured it out. But for the most part, you just agree. Just agree. Sure, I can do that. No problem. I will handle it. You walk away and you do it, and you don't necessarily do it the way he wants you to do it. You just get it done. That's what I do.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more, or
Not very important to the schedule.
not according? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernst. So one last philosophy I'll point out, I actually tie back to Ralph Smedley, who actually is the guy who started Toastmasters a long time ago now, 90 years. When he got the idea, it was because he was working the YMCA, saw lots of men who would be coming through who were essentially part-time workers or occasional workers, and they had difficulty with their communication skills, particularly their verbal communication skills. That's where he got the idea of let's get together and get up and practice and give ourselves feedback and support to help improve. The idea wasn't, per se, let's make everyone talk better. The idea is to give them more confidence, more self-esteem, and the practice so that they get better at communicating, but at many other things as well. And from my personal experience throughout Toastmasters, those people who actually bother to go all the way through to at least to the end of that first manual, the levels that they jump up, not just communicating, but in their organization, in their preparation, and in their own self-esteem and self-worth, jump up in levels that they start accomplishing things elsewhere in life that they never even knew they were working towards. So for I personally like the philosophy that Toastmasters is the place you come to improve yourself. And that by helping each of us improve, we're also helping ourselves, and the changes we make here go propagate out to the rest of the world. And that's the philosophy I like to take forward from Toastmasters. Whichever one you may choose for yourself is fine. That's what you'll be dealing with, and you talk to me, and if you happen to get something out of it, that is awesome. And that's where we're coming to get something out of it now, beginning with our evaluation section and our general evaluator this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Or Toastmasters, yes. The education section. Find out what we do well, what we can improve upon. I will also, besides announcing or calling for the evaluators, take the reports and then sum up my thoughts on the meeting. So first off, I'm going to ask that we have evaluator 1, Erika Benfield, come forward to evaluate Diane Manifesti's speech.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests, especially Diane. My job was to evaluate a former teacher who has a vivid, colorful language, use of words that is difficult for someone like myself to determine what is considered jargon and what is not, because her words are a step above the average person. The objective of the speech was how to say it. I found it to be more of a humorous speech myself, and I think you should consider some of those anecdote stories for future, because I found myself holding back a cackle or two in some of the vivid memories that you shared, and it takes a lot to share those stories. You were very descriptive. My suggestions for you would be to watch that jargon language. If the objective is to limit your jargon, it has a chart that says, I'll give some of you those, and I learned this in a class, but what they consider jargon, for example, if you use the word finalize, they suggest to use the word finish. If you use the word viable, they suggest to use possible. So my suggestion to you would be to tailor the speech and some of the jargon to simpler words. Another suggestion would be to outline 3 to 4 of your stories or anecdotes. You almost could stretch that out into 2 speeches, such as your childhood memories, which were amazing, versus your motherhood memories. You could have separated those. Awesome memorization, Diane. She hardly used anything. She was able to remember all these stories and get it all in that time frame, and that is amazing. Not many people can do that.
Early in the time.
And to end, a suggestion or something to point out is a fantastic use of title. Many people have a difficult time using a title that makes sense, and you use the title Messy Memories. How appropriate. I enjoyed the speech very much, and I look forward to your next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erika. And now we will have Mike Hughes evaluating Alexandra's 10th speech.
Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, what an honor. Cage of perfection. Something about that I think strikes all of us. It really, really does, because we all fear failing. Why?